Each year, scientists, researchers, and everyday people make incredible discoveries, helping us to better understand the world around us. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at interesting discoveries. Unidentified 15,000-year-old viruses found in Tibetan glaciers. A recent discovery has uncovered ancient viruses which were previously unknown to humanity. These newly discovered viruses were frozen in the Tibetan glaciers for 15,000 years. This event presents yet another effect of climate change that we have begun experiencing. The discovery was made by researchers who analysed ice samples from the Glacier ice cap of the Tibetan Plateau in China. This particular ice cap was riddled with airborne particles that were trapped during their original formation. The glacier had formed gradually, allowing for layers to be built clearly on top of one another. Each layer of ice represented a period in which the glacier grew. Dozens of intriguing particles and pathogens were found within each layer of ice, with every layer more historic than the last. The leading microbiologist of the study, Zhiping Zhong, remarked, "These glaciers were formed gradually, and along with dust and gases, many viruses were also deposited in that ice." When researchers began observing the earliest formed layers of the glacier, that is when they made their most shocking discovery. They stumbled upon a virus that had never been documented before, one that was dated to be an estimated 15,000 years old. The discovery has motivated archaeologists and microbiologists alike across the world. This find tells researchers that there's still things out there that are waiting to be discovered. Finding ancient viruses that have been so well preserved allows us to gain a greater insight into the biological conditions of our planetary past. During the time that the glacier was formed, the planet was under very extreme weather conditions that we have never seen before to this extent. As climate change continues to become a greater concern at the forefront of research, we are beginning to delve deeper into valuable information from studying extreme bouts of climate change in the past. With everything that's happened recently, it is ever more pressing to determine how will potentially dangerous bacteria and viruses respond to climate change. Studying ancient viruses may be the key to unlocking the answer. As many ancient glaciers begin melting in the rising temperatures, biologists and pathologists have begun scrambling to preserve as much material as possible. Glaciers contain some of the most valuable information regarding ancient viruses and pathogens. Another potential danger regarding these melting glaciers is that the viruses may be brought back to life in the warmth. Viruses that have been frozen in time for centuries have been found to re-emerge as powerful and contagious as ever. This exact event took place in Siberia in 2016. A 12-year-old boy passed away after being infected with anthrax, an extremely rare disease that was largely thought of as being extinct since 1957. Around the same time as the boy's loss of life, over 20 people were hospitalized after contracting the same disease. Later, it was theorized that a 75-year-old reindeer had been the cause of the outbreak. In the early to mid-1940s, when the disease was more prominent, a reindeer had contracted anthrax. When the animal passed away, its carcass was covered underground and frozen. The soil remained in permafrost until 2016. In 2016, several heat waves passed through Siberia and caused the soil to defrost. It was at this time that the 12-year-old boy and many other community members contracted anthrax. Scientists argue that the virus within the animal carcass had been preserved in ice, but had not been eliminated. Upon the climate warming, the disease was released and claimed the young boy's life. This devastating tragedy shocked the world and only further proved that climate change is an imminent threat. Microplastics found for the first time in Antarctic ice. Although some might believe that the glaciers of the Antarctic are relatively untouched by humans, this is becoming further and further from the truth. Not only are the glaciers and ice sheets melting and diminishing at a rapid rate, but scientists have recently discovered tiny pieces of plastic called microplastics in deep ice. The unhappy discovery made by a United States-led team of scientists was described as a punch in the gut, as it details how truly deep and pervasive the pollution of the Earth has become, when even the most remote waters on the planet are impacted. As with pollution and contaminants anywhere, the ecosystems and underwater life will undoubtedly be negatively impacted by the presence of microplastics, and this impact might even be felt by those of us incredibly distant from the freezing tundra of the Antarctic. The discovery of the contamination was made by a team of researchers who described the feeling of finding evidence of human damage in such a remote location by saying, "We had spent weeks looking out at what looks so much like pristine white sea ice floating out on the ocean. When we looked at it up close, and we see that it's all very, very visibly contaminated when you look at it with the right tools, it felt a little bit like a punch in the gut." The research team took 18 samples from various depths up to 2 meters at several locations, and in some instances, the plastic contamination wasn't microscopic at all. It was visible throughout the samples. The samples appeared to be at least a year old, and it was theorized that it was blown from far-off oceans, where plastic pollution is much more widespread, and carried through the atmosphere until it was dumped onto the Antarctic during snowfalls. If this hypothesis is correct, the spread of microplastics is not limited to just the locations where polluted ocean waters can reach, but it can in fact turn up anywhere on the Earth. The fact that such small pieces of plastic can be transported through the air without notice raises the question of whether or not we are inhaling microplastics as well, and the effect this will have on humans as well as plants, animals, and sea life. The effects that humans have had on the planet is evident even in the farthest reaches of Earth. But as we learn and discover more and more about that frozen expanse, we are also continuously uncovering beautiful and amazing things about that seemingly impenetrable landscape. 99% of ocean plastic has gone missing. It's no secret that of the huge amounts of plastic we consume each day, a vast amount winds up in our oceans. Campaigns to reduce single-use plastic, such as the introduction of paper straws and the heartbreaking pictures of birds tangled in bags and other packaging, have been aiming to tackle this, though there is still an estimated 8 million tons of plastic entering the ocean annually. Whilst the messages to stop polluting the ocean have been clear for years, and we know that the waste entering the oceans is in abundance, scientists are confused as to where the plastic actually is in the oceans themselves. We can see the awful garbage patches and the litter along beaches, but the plastic we can see, observe and measure only accounts for about 1% of all ocean plastic. Unnerving answers have begun to emerge as research has gone on. Eric van Sebeel, an oceanographer at Utrecht University in the Netherlands, used the analogy of an iceberg to explain what we think is happening. We see only the tip of the iceberg, meaning that the waste piling up on the surface is by no means the bulk of the plastic pollution. This actually accounts for less than half of 1% of waste, he says. The rest of the iceberg, or the other 99%, is under the surface levels. The maps of our oceans are not overly extensive and only observe the surface, barely looking past it. We do not have any way to currently confirm exactly how much plastic is in one part of the ocean at any one time. Research seems to indicate that the plastic is accumulating in much larger amounts in some of the deepest parts of the ocean, settling on the sea floor and becoming buried. Helga Nijman, a biogeochemist at the Royal Netherlands Institute for Sea Research, has suggested that part of the issue in detecting plastic in the oceans could be it breaking down into small fragments that are so minuscule they are difficult to observe and detect. Nijman stated that the plastic is more like a chemical dissolved in the water than floating in it. Monterey Bay is the land border to America's largest national marine sanctuary. At first glance to any visitors, the view seems picturesque with hardly any litter or problems, though this can quickly be debunked. Since 2017, scientists from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute used customized remote-control submersibles to collect samples of the fragments of plastic within the water by filtering seawater to take a photograph of what is in it. The lead researcher on the project, Anila Choi, a professor of oceanography at the University of California, San Diego, said, "Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it isn't there." The results of this investigation found that there were nearly 15 bits of plastic in every litre of water, not far off the amount found online in garbage patches. While this method is promising, there is a great number of oceans left to explore and investigate, though it should help to prove that there is more ocean plastic at lower depths. For the marine life, this could have fatal issues. The nanoplastics, fragments smaller than a cell, drifting through the ocean can build up in the tissue of animals, such as fish, leaving them with neurological and reproductive problems. This research should serve as a huge warning for individuals and corporations to actively think about their waste and choices that are being made to aim to reduce the harmful ocean plastics. Chinese scientists are working on a Mars drone that flies faster than sound. With whispers of humans being able to colonize on Mars growing into genuine scientific discussions, it is only a matter of time before we will need to develop quick, efficient transport options. In China, a drone that is being designed to fly faster than the speed of time is under development and has great possibilities should humans ever make it to Mars. So far, this project has a proposal for a hypersonic aircraft to move between possible colonies on Mars and ourselves here on Earth. The concept so far details a drone clocking in at 1,100 pounds that is able to travel 5 times the speed of sound, as reported in the South China Morning Post. This design is in incredibly early stages and may never be completed, though the scientific community is already counting down. Xu Xu, a researcher at Beijing University, explained that there are many technical issues that need to be solved before this flight could take place. Balancing the impact on the environment and the atmosphere here on Earth versus on Mars is just one of many that the team is working to resolve. So far, it has not been specific whether the aim is to travel faster than sound on Earth or Mars, with the speed of sound on Mars travelling at 540 miles per hour as opposed to Earth's 760 miles per hour. While these are both incredibly quick for the drone to travel at, especially when aiming to transport goods and people, there is a notable difference. The drone has a very sleek design, which is helpful regarding aerodynamics, with SCMP likening the design to a cruise missile. Another notable point is the use of magnesium to fuel the craft. Mars's atmosphere is 96% carbon dioxide, meaning magnesium can burn efficiently, whereas here on Earth, CO2 is not a good oxidizer, so magnesium can burn with a high enough temperature, though this is not an efficient choice. Differences like this are yet to be ironed out. The potential for transport on and around Mars is fantastic, but we are decades away from both needing it and perfecting the design. The discoveries we make each year, even each day, are fascinating, and looking back at the technology and the initiative we have as humans is impressive, to say the least. Mysterious blobs of dense rock hundreds of miles tall sits deep inside our Earth. Our final discovery is a mystery whose origin has yet to be fully explained. Deep beneath the Earth's crust are 2 massive blobs of rock that resemble a pair of hands cupping the Earth's core. The word massive is an understatement, as these formations spread thousands of miles in either direction within the Earth's crust and make up 600 miles of the Earth's 1,800-mile deep mantle. Geologists have spent the last 4 decades trying to determine the source of these gigantic continent-sized formations that have been discovered under Africa and the Pacific Ocean. While some experts have suggested that these are tectonic plate fragments trapped beneath each other, new research points to an otherworldly explanation instead. Yuan, a PhD student from Arizona State University, suggested that the blobs are the remains of a planetary embryo the size of Mars, named Theia, that collided with the Earth in its early infancy 4.5 billion years ago. Yuan theorizes that Theia's mantle could have been several % denser than Earth's. This theory would explain how it would have been possible for Theia's mantle to sink through the planet's lowermost mantle and surround our planet's core. In 2019, while studying the plumes of hot rock and magma from some Samoan and Icelandic volcanoes, scientists were able to identify several elements that date back 4.5 billion years ago, the time when Theia is suggested to have collided with Earth. While this data does support the collision theory, there is still not enough resounding scientific evidence to support it fully. The resulting impact is also the most popular theory to date about the origins of our moon. The collision would have caused the Earth's surface to explode into a sea of raging magma, shooting planetary debris out into space that would later form our only permanent natural satellite. Another interesting theory is that when the two primordial worlds collided, their cores fused into a single core, potentially releasing the chemicals needed to support life on our planet. It has also been suggested that these blobs are so massively dense that they contribute to the weakening of our Earth's magnetic field. While the planetary collision is the most popular hypothesis explaining the origins of our moon and the blobs cradling the Earth's core, scientists have still yet to find enough concrete evidence of Theia's existence. But what do you make of these recent discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.